curriculum. So we threw away all of that. Thankfully, I never bought any, just borrowed some to look at it. We also really enjoyed movies and books and outings, but we hated lectures and tests. Whenever we would try to quiz her, she would just run away from us like we were saying poisonous things to her. We realized that that was called unschooling, and it was more of a basket than a box because we could pick and choose what worked for us, and that became our version of homeschooling. And as we picked and chose what things worked for us, that's when you'll see the X's and the circles on Zoe's example. That's when we started actually making a big X across the things that didn't work for us and circling the things that did. If something brings you down on your sheet and you don't want it to apply to you anymore, put a big X through it. If it brings you up and fulfills you and makes you happy, put a big circle around it. And it's completely okay. In fact, I encourage you to not X and O everything, because that leaves you time to concentrate on the other attributes to see if you want them in your life or not. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but either way you should think about it. Another box that I found myself in when Zoe was much younger is the vegan box. I'd been sick my whole life. Don't want to step on that. I'd been sick my whole life, and I started researching ways that I could not be sick, and I found I had a lot of allergies, and I decided to try a vegan diet for health reasons, and I was immediately much, much healthier. I got rid of all the drugs that I'd been taking, and I felt great for the first time in my life. So I put myself in the vegan box, and I started telling people, I'm a vegan. And they look at me and they say, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. I eat a vegan diet. I'm a vegan. And they said, you don't look like a vegan, so you must not be a vegan. Because a vegan has lots of tattoos all over them. They have multiple piercings all over their body. They usually dye their hair funky colors, and they only wear hemp clothing. And I said, but those things are great for the people who look cool doing them, but if I were to do that, I'd look pretty stupid. It's just not my personality. I think people who do that are great, but it's not me. They said, well, then you're not a vegan. And I said, but I am a vegan. I don't eat animal products. I'm a vegan. And then, no, you can't possibly be. And so I started wondering, am I a vegan? But the thing is, I am. Because it's the label of vegan to me is just that you don't eat animal products. All the rest of the stuff, they're attributes that don't apply to me, and I threw them out. And I just kept the fact that I eat a whole food plant-based diet, and that's it, nothing else. My family, my children are actually vegan for completely different reasons, and that's okay for them, but it's not for me. The third box that I found myself begging to be in about 10 years ago is the author box. As soon as I decided I wanted to be an author, I very, very willingly jumped into this box, poured in some cement, and decided to stay here for the rest of my life because this was going to be the perfect fit for me. 8 years into this, however, I started looking around at my life and the life of the other authors and writers around me and seeing that 90% of the attributes to the author label don't apply to me. But I was firmly stuck in it. I'd poured cement in. So what do I do now? With the help of my family, I got out a sledgehammer and I started whacking that cement. And I hit my feet a few times, and it hurt a lot, and I bled. And as I started to step out of it, I noticed I was all bloody and gross, but I started seeing which parts did apply to me. And I took those parts, and I kept them, and I put them in my basket to carry with especially if you find that you are always in whatever box someone else tells you you're in. If you're in a box, you need to do a little self-analysis to decide for yourself if that box fits you or not. For me, I kept finding myself in boxes that made other people happy because it allowed them to have the assumptions, to keep the assumptions about me that they wanted to have. It made their lives easier. And when I stepped out of the box, I made myself happy. And it's really important to make yourselves happy. So cross off everything you can, circle everything you can, and decide for yourself what's in your box and what's not. Thank you. Greg? Oh, what? Oh, yes. Is there anyone who'd like to share one of your boxes and maybe a few of your attributes and something you've crossed off or circled? Any volunteers? I see smiling people. I'd love to have at least one or two of you volunteer. Yes? Oh, good.
One of my boxes is an artist, and I put creative, isolationist, dedicated, artistically successful, financially successful, messy, male, dramatic, poor, colorful life, curious, visual.
Those are amazing attributes, and I would say yes. I thought of all of those when you said artist. So which ones do apply to you? And which ones are you crossing off?
Well, I feel artistically successful and dedicated and creative. Sometimes I feel poor financially, and I feel like I'm visual, curious.
I hope you didn't circle the poor one.
No, I put a little check because it's sometimes like that. And I identified that as financially poor versus poor
emotionally or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
I did X off male.
Good. That's good. Thank you. Can everyone give her a round of applause? Thank you. Do we have another volunteer? Yes.
I'm thinking about my daughter right now. We're going through a lot of, she's 2E and going through evaluation. And the boxes they're trying to put her in, you know.
Right.
She needs some of the boxes because she needs some assistance. But this is giving me something to do.
Oh, there's several times, especially when Zoe was really little, not only did the outside world put her into boxes, but I did too. I kept thinking, well, a 6-month-old is supposed to do this. A 2-year-old is supposed to do this. And every time I put her into that box, it limited her. Because she was only a 6-month-old for 1 month. She was only a 2-year-old for 1 year. And so I found that I needed to completely let my kids define themselves and constantly change. It's much harder though when you're in a situation where you're needing to be defined. And that's a tough situation, but you don't have to take it home with you. You can just have them do their little thing, just like when Zoe became a college student 3 years ago now? A while ago. They had to define her in certain ways. And we laughed the whole way. We're like, oh, let them think this and that and the other. And we walked away knowing that it was just this little check mark that they had to fill for their paperwork, red tape, but it didn't change who we were. It didn't change us at all. And so that's a really good point to bring up. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to do this exercise with my daughter.
Good, good. There's extra copies in yes. Do I have any other volunteers? At least one, maybe? No? No. Yes, great.
You said it so nicely. So under wife, I put, do you want me to tell you what I crossed off or just out?
Yeah, well, just tell us.
Okay.
and what I want to keep as well. Thank you very much. We'll have more Q&A at the end, and I'm hoping we'll get a few more people to volunteer. Greg? Oh, yes?
A round of applause for volunteers.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so hopefully now you've all crossed out a whole bunch of things that you no longer need to spend time and effort on. So now you've got a bunch of free time. You can spend that looking over your items that you haven't crossed or circled. Think about those a bit more if you really want those in your life or not. And even more exciting, you can look at some new boxes maybe you've avoided before and bring some new things into your life. This has happened in my life several times, that there have been boxes that I've not even wanted to look at, that I've looked at the outside and thought, that's not me, that's not for me at all. For example, I'm a computer engineer. I write computer code all day long, and I think that's just the most fun thing ever. But early in my career, I was offered the chance to be the manager of the group. And I looked at the outside of that manager box, and I thought, no way. That's all reports and meetings and office politics. I don't want anything to do with that. And I gave that box a wide berth. That's not for me. I'm just going to write my code and stay to myself. But then a few years ago, further into my career, I had another chance to look at this, and I kind of took a glance in here. And I realized that there actually were some things in there that I liked. Being a manager meant I could take on projects that were too big for one person to do alone. I could be involved in the planning and make sure that things made sense at the start instead of fixing somebody else's messed up plan already in the works. And I could make sure that everybody else understood what was going on instead of infighting and working in opposite directions and being counterproductive. And I found that I didn't need to spend all my time on reports and meetings. That I could continue doing what I'd always loved, but I could do it even better. I could take on bigger projects, make things work right, and really enhance what I've been doing before. So I was really glad that I had finally opened up that box and taken a look. And in my personal life, too, there have been times where I thought, you know, that's something that's not for me at all, and I haven't even investigated. One of those things was country living. I thought, I have no interest in raising crops or raising animals. I'm an engineer, not a farmer. I would just be horribly bored being out in the country with nothing to do but stare at the tree. There's no technology out there. What would I do? I'd just be completely bored. But again, life taught me otherwise. Several years ago, my family and I did some really deep thinking about where we wanted to live, what we wanted from our environment, what we wanted from our lives. And we realized that we wanted some control over our environment. We wanted some peace. And we looked at a whole variety of different living situations. Planned communities, communal living, houses, apartments, all sorts of things. Until we finally decided we actually kind of did like the country setting. We found a 10-acre parcel out in the desert that had never had anything on it. We laid it out just like we wanted. We put a house and a well onto it and a walking path, a third of a mile long with a labyrinth on it. We even put a zip line off of the walking path. So we really customized it to be just for us. And it was all peaceful and quiet and beautiful wildlife, but it was only 5 minutes away from a shopping center. So it had everything we wanted. And I didn't have to give up my technology either. I had a high-speed radio internet link set up and satellite TV. I had all the technology that I had anywhere else. And now we're really happy with that. We're temporarily living in the city again, but we can't wait to get back to that country living because we finally looked in the box and saw it actually had a lot of what we wanted. The last box I want to talk to you about is called public speaking. I never thought I would be up in front of a room speaking to people like this. As I told you, I'm a computer geek. I thought I'd spend just all my time sitting in a corner typing at the keyboard. I don't need to interact with people. I've just got my machines and I'm happy. But again, life had other plans, and I decided a few years ago to start my own software company. And it turns out when you start a company, you actually have to talk to people. And I had this opportunity to present my company in front of some venture capitalists and maybe get some funding for it. I was terrified at the notion of actually standing up there and talking to people. There's this panel of very powerful, important venture capitalists and a whole room full of other entrepreneurs who would be analyzing my performance and looking for everything I did wrong. And I was sure just going to scrutinize me and make fun of me and everything possible that you could think of bad. But I really wanted this to happen, so I made a presentation and I practiced it over and over in front of friends and family. And I honed it down until it was as good as it could be. And I gave that presentation, and it went over really well, and I got the interest of an investor. I'm still working on building up my company, but being able to speak in front of people has proved a really valuable skill, not just for the business, but for other aspects of my life too. And that idea of being able to get other people to understand what you're talking about and get them excited about it also has been just a really powerful thing, and I'm really glad that I looked in that box and opened it up. It's been really rewarding to do that.
Yes, it is rewarding, but it can also be scary when you don't know exactly what you want at this exact moment. For example, I've lived in Arizona for a long time, but now I'm living in California. And I love living in Arizona, but the longer I'm here in California, the more it becomes my home too. It's hard to know exactly what to do.
I see my daughters, both Tegan and Zoe, they have so many dreams, and both career-wise and personal aspirations, and they get scared and overwhelmed because they're not sure which one to choose first. It's a difficult decision on a day-to-day basis as well as year to year, and it can stop them, almost paralyze them. And so I can see how it's overwhelming.
Right, and that's why we created a flowchart for happiness, which Tegan is going to pass out for everybody now. And we created this to help us organize our thoughts and figure out what we really wanted to do in our lives.
Yes, our flowchart to happiness is actually very useful in all aspects of our lives, making decisions both big and small.
The questions you'll see on it, they look really simple, and they are one at a time. Put all together, it actually caused us to think really deeply. This flowchart took us months to write, and it started with us writing down every single question we could come up with about how to become happy. And by the time we thought we had every question listed, there were over 800 questions. And we whittled that down until it became this very lovely 8-page spider-looking flowchart that was too overwhelming for us, let alone for us to give to anybody else. So we whittled it down some more to the core of what all of the questions were, and that's when we came up with this 2-page flowchart. We found it to be really helpful for us on a day-to-day basis as well as a planning basis.